Hello everyone, and welcome back to Ted's Fish Room. Today I'm going to share a little project with you. This is a 55-gallon aquarium that I'm going to use as a display tank in a booth at a show coming up in Chicago, the Aquatic Experience. And I'm going to put a corner Matten filter inside one corner of this aquarium as filtration. The Matten filter is a great way to provide biological and mechanical filtration in a tank without being overly obtrusive. And all you need to run it is a small air pump. For that reason, it makes it optimum for using in the application that I'm doing, and it also is a really good way to have a nice looking aquarium in your home or in your fish room without a lot of extra equipment. A sponge Matten filter is proven to be a very effective and efficient way to filter an aquarium. The most common way to use a Matten filter is to wedge a solid mat of foam on one end of the tank, but this can be unsightly in a display aquarium. An alternate method is to install a Matten filter only in the back corner of the aquarium in a way that looks like a typical corner overflow box for a bottom drilled aquarium. In order to install the Matten filter, we're going to need a few things. First off, you're going to need the Matten filter corner kit itself. I get these at SwissTropicals.com. Stefan Tanner there really knows how to use this equipment. He's made it available to the American hobby, and we're going to take advantage of that. These glass rods are going to be glued in place inside the aquarium. And then this is the foam wall that's going to be bent between the braces to make the filter itself. What we're going to need to install it, you're going to need a straight edge and something you can measure with so you get this line straight on the sides of the tank. A permanent marker to mark the outside of the tank with. You will be able to erase this with alcohol when it's all said and done. Some rubbing alcohol to clean the inside of the tank. Some paper towels for cleaning up. Some masking tape. And some heavy but relatively small objects that we're going to be able to use to hold these glass braces in place like this while we silicone them to the bottom of the tank. These books are nice, but you can use something else if you don't have the Mergus Atlases. Oh, I have to give a mention here. Thank you, Rachel O'Leary, for telling me to use these books for this project. And last but not least, you're going to need a tube of silicone. You do not need a lot of silicone for this project. I get this at the hardware store. It is clear, it's by DAP, and it is 100% silicone. That's important. 100% silicone. Once you have all your pieces together, then we'll get started on putting this brace into this aquarium. So I want the braces on this filter to be 7 inches from the edge of the aquarium on two sides, on the back of the aquarium and on the side of the aquarium. So we're going to start on the back of the aquarium. I have the aquarium laying down on its face. This is the back. I'm going to take my straight edge. I'm actually going to turn it around so that I can mark on the inch point. And I'm going to run it out to 7 inches. There's a 7-inch mark right here. And I'm going to use my pen. Can't talk with a cap in my mouth. I'm going to mark that edge there. I'm going to come down here, turn it around where I can read 1 inch there. I'm going to come out to 7 inches here. I'm going to mark the 7 inches. Then I'm going to line that up. The 2 marks with my straight edge. That. I'm going to run one line all the way up the side of the aquarium, on the outside of the aquarium. When we're all said and done, we'll be able to take a little bit of rubbing alcohol and erase that line. I'm going to do the same thing on the side of the aquarium now. And now we have our two guidelines on the aquarium. Now I'm going to turn the whole aquarium over and we're going to get started on the inside. I've turned this aquarium on end and we're going to start with the brace that's on the side of the tank. This is the brace and it's going to be lined up exactly with the little line that you can see through the glass on the bottom of the tank here. To start off with, we want to clean the tank out. So I'm going to take just a clean paper towel. I'm going to wipe out all the dust and stuff. Now to make sure it's doubly clean, I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol and clean up the inside of the glass, especially down at the bottom where the silicone is going to go in first. One thing you have to be careful of is at the very bottom of the tank, at the end, the silicone sticks up from the corner. So the glass rod is not going to sit flat. If you'll notice, when you push the glass rod towards the bottom of the tank, it kind of rises up on the silicone. So you're not going to be able to put the end of this rod flush against the bottom of the tank. So there's going to be a little bit of a goop of silicone there. Start by taking a tube of silicone and putting a pretty good sized bead on the bottom of the rod. Now silicone takes about 6 hours to set, so you have some time here. You don't have to rush. What you're going to do is you're going to take the rod with the silicone and you're going to run it right up to the bottom of the tank and set it in place. Make sure that it's lined up right on top of the line. And you'll notice that it's going to wobble a little bit. So now is where you take your heavy objects Now you want the brace to be perfectly perpendicular with the tank. So do this very carefully. You really can't measure it. You're just going to have to do it by eye and feel. Now it's being held there in place. Once that rod is being held in place, you can use a little more silicone to kind of fill in the gaps around the end of it. And you just use your finger to wipe it into place. Just be very careful you're not moving the rod. Now the silicone needs to sit for about 6 hours before it is set enough to be able to manipulate the rod without breaking the seal. Now I have the glass brace pegged inside the aquarium so it's going to stay in place. I'm going to use a little bit of masking tape on the inside of the tank so I can get a nice clean edge to the silicone after I put it in. And then I'm going to use a silicone in a gun this time to run a clean bead of silicone up both sides of the brace and then smooth it out. And I'll show you how I use that masking tape to give it a nice clean edge. I'm going to take a little bit of masking tape and get a rough measurement here. I'm going to lay it in so that the edge of the masking tape is about a 1/4 inch from the glass bar. Make it nice and straight. I'm going to do that on both sides. Now I'm not worried about the goopy silicone. I didn't make that one long enough. I have to get another piece. I'm not worried about the goopy silicone at the bottom, next to the bottom glass, because that's going to be covered by substrate. But I would like the silicone that you see from the outside of the tank to have a nice clean edge to it. Now I'm going to use my silicone and my caulk gun. I'm going to lay a nice straight, very clean bead of silicone all the way up the edge with a glass brace. I'm going to do that on both sides. Now that the bead of silicone is in place, I'm just going to take my finger. I'm not going to push hard, but I'm just going to run it up that seam and even it out on both sides. Now, I'm just going to pull up the tape. And that's going to leave a very clean edge to the silicone. But I think you can see how clean that line of silicone is. Now we need to let that cure for 6 hours before we can manipulate it. And really, you need to let it cure for 24 to 48 hours before you can use it in the aquarium. But we still have another brace to put in. So we're going to let this cure for about 6 hours. Then we're going to come back and we're going to put in this brace. All the braces are in the tank, so now we can fit the Matten filter into them. I'm going to put it into this tank while the tank is sitting on its side so you can see a better look at how it fits into the tank. Then I'll turn the tank up and you can see how it's going to stand in there as a finished product. Here are my braces, and here is the Matten filter. Here's the corrugated side, here's the flat side. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flat side so that it's facing up here. I'm going to bend it down so it's behind the brace, and that's it. That's how it works. So when we turn this aquarium up, now we have this space right here behind the filter. So here's how the tank looks with the filter in it. We have one more thing to do before this aquarium is ready to go. We need to install the jet lifter. It's very important that the gap that we cut in the top of the Matten filter matches the diameter of the jet lifter at the top where it's going to set down on top of the filter. It's also very important that you cut that gap while the filter itself is bent into the corner. So I'm going to demonstrate how to do that. When you install the jet lifter into the Matten filter, you need to think about what direction you want the water flow to go in the aquarium. If you set it over here on this side, it's going to go straight at the glass in the front. That's no good unless you're trying to make the rest of the tank to be very still. You can go at a 45-degree angle. Now it's going to be aimed at the front glass. You can go along the back glass. What I'm going to do is I'm going to point this jet lifter right at the opposite corner, front corner of the aquarium, so I get a nice flow of water across the top of the tank from the back corner over here to the front corner over there. So when I cut the gap for the top of my jet lifter, I'm going to use a razor blade and I'm going to use a sharp pair of scissors. You want the gap to be slightly narrower than this top section right here. You see where it's kind of bumped out, this fitting? So I'm actually going to make it just as wide as the tube. That way, whenever I put this down into the filter, it's going to create a tight seal. So I'm going to start that by putting it in a place where I want it. I'm going to line it up so it's going to that front corner of the tank. And then I'm going to take my razor blade. I'm just going to score both sides of the tube. Now I'm going to take that razor blade and I'm going to go straight down. I'm going to angle it in slightly for about 1.5 inches. And when I get down there, I'm just going to take my scissors and clip out the gap. Now when I set my tube in there, there we go. And now this aquarium is ready for substrate and water. Thank you, Swiss Tropicals, for providing this wonderful product and this wonderful service, and I can't wait to get these tanks set up and on display.